Good morning, afternoon or evening, Mr. Gordon. Depending on when you're watching this, I'll be presenting my quantitative analysis individual assignment, how I got to my answers and the answers themselves. Starting with question 1 part A. I found the median of mean pressure at MSL through the median formula in Excel, as you can see over here. I used the raw data given by the question, and I put in the daily mean pressure at MSL from the 1st of Jan to the 31st of December, and I ran it through the median formula to give me my answer. As a median is the middle value of all the other mean pressure values, my answer is 1011 pascals. Moving on to the next part of my question, the mean of dew point temperature. I found it through the mean formula, or in this case in Excel it's called average. I selected the daily dew point temperatures from 1st of Jan all the way to the 31st of December of year 2015, and I ran it through the mean formula to reach my answer. As the mean is the sum of all values divided by the total number of all the values, my answer is 23.62 degrees Celsius, around there. For question 1 part B, I calculated the average daily rainfall amount per month using the average formula. I selected the daily rainfall amounts per month and put them through the average formula to find these values right here. I then made a table to show all my findings on average rainfall for the year before putting it through the graphic function in Excel to give me the bar chart. For question 1 part C, I calculate the average daily mean temperature per month by using the average formula, like how I did in part B. I made a table for the Excel graphing function, and I used the graphing function to create the bar chart. For question 1 part D, where I was supposed to discuss my findings, first I described what I found in the first graph and what it translates into, which is Singapore received more rainfall in the second half of the year as compared to the first part of the year. And then for the second graph, I did the same thing as well, where I described the flow of the chart, the highest and the lowest, and what it means basically, which in this case is Singapore gets hotter in the middle of the year as compared to the beginning and the end of the year. Now I can compare these two graphs together as I know more about them, and I deduce that there is no correlation, because there is no clear correlation, because when one of these variables is at its highest or its lowest, the other variable is not as highest or lowest. And here's the graphs above to show why I think it's right. Now for question 2 part E, the confidence interval formula given requires some data that I need to calculate myself, such as sample size, standard deviation, and the z-value. For standard deviation, I used the standard deviation sample formula and selected all the mean daily max temperatures for the year to give me the standard deviation. To find the z-value, since the question is asking me for a 95% confidence interval, it means that I'm trying to find 95% of the z-curve, and since my answer uses the z-value divided by 2, because we only need to consider one side of the curve, we need to find 47.5% of the z-curve. Then, plugging in the information we found into the confidence interval formula, which you can see over here, confidence interval, we get our answer of 0.1261, which we then add and subtract to the mean, which I found as well, to find the upper and lower bound. For question 2 part F, I used the values for sample size, standard deviation, and mean as the mean daily max temperature, as they are the same. Since the question asked for a 5% Level of significance, my alpha value is 0.05. I made my null hypothesis mean less than 31.7 because it does not contain the equal sign, and made the other hypothesis mean more than or equal to 31.7 because it does contain the equal sign. I calculated my critical value using the normal distribution of sample formula available in Excel, having 1 minus the alpha value, and that's how I came to this answer, because it's on the left side of the graph, which means negative. I formed my test statistics according to the formula given in the formula list, and finally I reached my conclusion that my test statistics was more than my critical value, so we have sufficient evidence to reject the null hypothesis, which means that the claim is correct. Now lastly, for question 2 part G, I stated my stand before showing y in 2e and 2f, why my stand is true. Then I sum it all up and with a conclusion, and I've come to the end of my presentation. Thank you for your attention.